And good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be prompt. We've got 1 hour and we have a hard stop at 1:30
Hey,
East
Nikki.
or 2:30 Eastern time. So thank you all for joining us today. I am Mary Beth Collins, the Director of Programs here at NACoA, the National Association for Children of Addiction. Our mission is to eliminate the adverse impact of alcohol and drug use on children and families. And we are so grateful to anyone who is involved in our whole family recovery program, Celebrating Families, as this program is an incredibly supportive way to respond to that adverse impact and provide the hope and healing to children and families. And we are so grateful for each and every one of you that are involved in our Celebrating Families program or considering starting one soon. We're so glad that you joined us today. For the next hour, we are going to focus specifically on our young families and how group leaders can be an essential support as a guide on the side. So I just want to do some brief housekeeping and then we're going to get started. We are providing CEUs as a NADAC education provider. So you can look in your inbox. We'll send your certificate via email to you after the program today. We are reserving some time at the end for questions, but Melissa welcomes them throughout. We want this to be a wonderfully fluid hour of information and discussion. And so we've got a Q&A box. Definitely feel free to share there. Feel free to share in the chat. We'll be watching both and we'll be able to respond to your comments and questions. And we also have a survey that you will be prompted at the end. If something occurs to you later in the hour and you didn't get a chance to ask, you'll have another opportunity for us to be able to get answers to you. We also have the closed caption feature here on Zoom. So for anyone who would like us to activate that functionality, please go ahead and click that show captions. We want to make sure that everybody has access to the information and feels included in our upcoming hour. And so with that, I have the pleasure today to introduce you to Melissa Santos, if you haven't already met her. She is the Community Solutions Senior Director of Strategy and Community Development. Melissa is a passionate advocate for breaking the stigma surrounding trauma, mental health, addiction, and domestic violence. She actively seeks opportunities to foster empathy, understanding, and resilience among communities and cultures by highlighting the common experiences and trauma that bind us all. She also recognizes and respects the unique experiences and strengths that each individual brings to the table. Melissa identifies with the LGBTQI community and uses her strengths of kindness, vulnerability, and connection to support individuals and teams. With over 25 years in the behavioral health field, Melissa has spent the last decade supporting organizations and foundations in strategic planning, leadership, and operational development as the CEO and principal consultant at Santos Coaching and Consulting. Melissa serves as the Senior Director of Strategy and Community Development at Community Solutions, a mind-sized behavioral health organization in Santa Clara and San Benito counties in California. In this role, she leads the CS Learning Training Institute, the organization's corporate culture initiatives and strategic plan portfolio. She is a program developer and national trainer of Celebrating Families, and she facilitates trainings, conference workshops, and webinars on trauma-informed care, mindfulness, recovery, and organizational leadership throughout the country. Additionally, she hosts a podcast, Pathways to Resilience, that features guests from various paths sharing their resiliency journeys. And so with that, I pass everything over to Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mary Beth. And that was a mouthful. I appreciate you reading. But mostly, Mary Beth and I have been partnering, we realized, for about 15 years. I've been involved with the Celebrating Families for 20 years. And I'm sure, much like most of you, I attended a training for Celebrating Families really early on in its development and fell in love with the content and just the principle of bringing families together and honoring that every member of a family needs their own path to healing and healing together when recovering from trauma substance use disorders and other just traumas and stressors that impact families. So I'm really glad to be here with you all today. Also just super excited to see so many familiar names, and for, as Mary Beth mentioned, just your commitment to supporting families through this program. I am like a facilitator, like many of you. And so on this, as Mary Beth said, this webinar platform, I've certainly gotten used to, but I really do want and hope for some back and forth participation. So I love that some of you have already entered things into the chat. I'll ask some questions throughout because that helps me make sure that we're on the same page and that we're hitting the mark here. So today is about being a successful guide on the side for young families. And really, this is for any family and truly for anyone that you might be supporting, coaching, or mentoring. So let's start as we do with our celebrating families and get centered. I'm sure that some of you may be coming off of lunch break, I guess, since we're in your time zone, or other meetings. And so let's just take a moment, wherever you are, to put your feet flat on the floor. If you're able and would like to, just to my hands were crossed, uncross your hands and relax your shoulders. You can close your eyes if you'd like, you don't need to. Just take a moment to be centered in this next hour together that we give each other our attention, so that we give and receive whatever we're meant to on the subject. Take a couple of deep breaths. So today's intention is to sort of deepen the application and understanding of how we can support enhancing the confidence and skills in the parents and caregivers that we are serving in the Celebrating Families program, or really in any of our work, through using both Guide on the Side, and we're also going to pull in the Healthy Living Circle, and utilizing those as strategies, not just concepts, in individual interactions with families. Many of you have been doing this program. I mean, I see Bridges on here and others for well over a decade. So you're very aware that Celebrating Families is a parent or caregiver child program, and that the focus of all group leaders, so regardless if you're running the parent group or the children's group, or you're there serving dinner, or you're the coordinator that's making sure everything's running smoothly, the focus for everyone is the relationship between the parent and child or children, between those caregivers and the children. So if I'm in the parent group, I'm supporting the parent, but my focus is really strengthening those parent-child and those family relationships. It's also grounded in one of our guiding principles, that all parents love their children. And our guiding principles don't mean that sometimes it's really hard for us to believe. We may see certain things, certain behaviors, that our own biases and judgments and concerns come up, and we say, really? That parent loves their children? Look what they did. But if we can step into an assumption that there is love there, then it's much easier to engage and come in as a guide on the side. Guide on the Side actually came probably about a decade ago, as we were developing the 0 to 3 program, and really thought about how it is that we're interacting, particularly with parents and caregivers. What's the action that we would want to be taking? What's our behavior look like when we're coming from the Guide on the Side, and not sort of from more of that let's fix it sort of hero place that many of us naturally, as helpers in helping professions, can sometimes come from. And so it's around creating safety and levity and fun, where parents are really guiding and taking the lead with their own children, that we're able to offer new learning and increase skills, but we're doing that in a way that empowers them and doesn't unintentionally disempower them. It also makes us aware of possible triggers, both theirs and ours. And ours may show up as bias, all those things that we have within ourselves that are totally natural, and an opportunity to be a guide on the side, seeing the parent as the expert, and that we are there to empower, to draw out their strengths, to really for them to see their own expertise about themselves and their family and their children. So before we go, I have a question in the chat. What word or words would you use to define a guide on the side? If you've been in our trainings, and even if you haven't, when you hear guide on the side, what comes up to you for you? Support. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else? Anyone other than Nikki? Okay, so support's a really important piece of guide on the side. Modeling behavior, yes, moderator. I love that. It's that sports casting essential parenting skill that shows up in our 0 to 3 curriculum. Exactly. Modeling the behavior. Absolutely. A mentor. Yes, thank you. Okay, processing, helping, yes. And so much of it is about how do we moderate, support, model, mentor, process, and help from the side, and not that we take over and lean in and disempower a parent. If you've been in our training and you've done the role play around this, we kind of talk about this crying baby in this activity around a parent who's really just struggling during a certain period of time during the dinner. We're going to talk about this right now. And how are we, there's multiple ways we could help and step into support. And some of those are empowering, and some of those, even though they're super heartfelt, can be unintentionally disempowering to parents. So let's just take this picture here and think about parenting and early recovery and all that might be happening for the mom that we're seeing in this picture as she is looking distressed and trying to feed her baby, and her baby looks upset as well. I'm curious what you notice. What meaning might she be making of her child's behavior? Whatever meaning she might be making or what you're noticing, how might that get in the way of her attachment to her little one? We see stress. She may be overwhelmed, frustrated. It's too much. She may feel judged. Maybe they're triggering one another. Maybe she's saying, I can't do this. Maybe they're both frustrated and overstimulated. Yeah. And so when we see this, we care so much, right, about both of the people in this, the baby is feeding off her frustration, maybe. So here we are, we're creating our own meaning around what we see here. Totally natural. This comes from our own life experiences. This comes from our own parenting philosophies and values. This also comes from the expertise we hold in our field and the number of families that probably hundreds and thousands on this call of families that we've served over the years. And so as we look at this, there's things that come up in us to understand what we're bringing to the interaction. When you see this and you see, if you can, I'm sure we can all imagine being live with this family, and you can see the overstimulation, the feeding off of the frustration, this mom having empathy for her that she can't do it. What do you notice about your own reactions and biases? What meaning might you be making of this parent-child relationship? And how might you be pulled to fix this interaction, to alleviate what we're seeing as stress for this mother and or this baby? I want to fix this. Yes, Eileen. Yes, I want to fix this. I want to help the mom. I want to help I just want to help. So what behavior might you literally be? Pick up the baby. Yep, Caitlin, we just want to pick up that baby, hold that baby, calm that baby down, tell mom she's doing a great job, but that we can come and hug the mom, tell her to breathe. Jory, okay, give mom a break. Paula, okay, I love this. Some of us may need to walk away for a few seconds. I love that we're getting to affirming mom. I want to go back to this picking up the baby and giving mom a break. So picking up the baby and giving mom a break. I do too. And one of the reasons Guide on the Side got developed because people like me were noticing that I would go in And I would swoop up this baby and I would say to the mom, thank you so much for coming to group today. It seems like maybe you've just been having a stressful time. If you want to go take a walk or take a break, I'd be happy to finish up feeding your child. And she goes, oh, thank you so much. Oh, yes, it's been a rough day. And off she goes. But and so there I am, right? And maybe I'm feeding that baby and I'm feeling really good, right? I'm feeling good because I feel like I just gave mom a break that she didn't ask me for, but that I assumed she needed. Where is the attachment happening right there if I'm now there feeding that baby and mom's gone and taken a walk? Whose relationship is being focused on? She might think that she can't handle it. I definitely would have sent her that message to her. You can't handle this, take a break. I can go ahead and do this for you. Especially if baby starts cooing and giggling and eating, right? If I'm sitting there and baby's eating and not crying, and that, what else do you think? What relationship are we focusing on if I'm sitting feeding that baby? It's me and that baby, right? Right, Christina. So I've taken unintentionally, right? That comes from deep care, from empathy, some sympathy, right? But also a hero cape on my back that wants to get in and fix it. Maybe my discomfort with their frustration and seeing them both in distress. And so I've unintentionally disempowered and made the interaction about me and that baby. And even if later on I bring mom back in and I try to do some skill building with her, I've probably done some damage and some rupture in her feeling empowered to be able to fix it. And the truth is, if I see her once or twice a week for group, she's feeding this baby way more times during the week than I am. And I've now given perhaps her the message, as you mentioned, Nikki, that she can't handle this, that she can't handle this. So being a guide on the side asks us to pause, to realize what is coming up for us, that desire, again, from a caring, loving, heartfelt, passionate place to fix, and first to pause and to sort of tell ourselves, okay, what's the next best thing I can do to provide support, all the things you said, support, affirmation, breathing, all those things, and supporting and helping from a place that focuses on that parent-child relationship. So the five, as we think and sort of, if we were to write out and think through the steps to being a guide on the side, I would add 0 is get my own baseline in a good spot, that I'm coming in from an awareness of just how activated I might be. And I know that's so real particularly in celebrating families groups when you have so many people. You have all the parents and you might have other caregivers and lots of kids and lots of families and lots of staff and managing all that. But even maybe on a home visit, one-on-one, right? Our own comfort. So taking our own breath and then reassuring, pointing out that's that sports casting that one of you mentioned. Then suggesting, then demo and affirming. So many of us here, some of us wanted to jump right to the suggesting or the demoing. Can I give you an idea of something to do? Can I show you how we might do this? Can I do this for you? And we forget those first two steps and the permission that one of you brought up. So as a guide on the side, my reassurance is really about calm. It's about, can we take a few deep breaths and not panicking, right? Even though it might be really dysregulating to you, to the two of them clearly, maybe to others in the room. I can see that you're wanting to be sure that she eats a healthy meal right now. I wonder what she's trying to communicate. And leaving that to mom, rather than me going in and saying, it seems like you're both really frustrated right now, and that maybe you're feeding off of another's frustration. That could be very true and is a very natural response for us to have. But instead, I'm leaving this really open for this mom to tell me what meaning she's making, because it could be something really different or something much more specific that if I leave it open, I'll probably learn more about what's going on for her. And this comes in, here comes that sports casting. I laugh all the time because in so many trainings of different topics, I end up doing sports analogies and I understand like zero of the sports. Like I'm not a sports person, but sports casting is one of the essential skills in parenting that we teach as part of our 0 to 3 program, which says rather than if you think about it this way, if I'm watching, and I'm going to try here because again, I don't know the sports, but if I'm watching a basketball game and I'm listening to the announcer, to that sportscaster, the sportscaster is not saying, number 3 picked up the ball. He looks really distressed. I wonder what his childhood trauma was. I'm really, now he looks happy. He's skipping across the court. They're not talking about their feelings. They may talk about some assumptions, but they're not really making assumptions. They're saying, number 3 picked up the ball and brought it to the, is there a yard line in basketball? Brought it to the yard line, da 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 da, 3-pointer, right? They're just pointing out what they see. When we can do that, and as when we can do that often, we are opening up opportunity to just show what we see. And it is like magic that parents and caregivers then respond, filling in the details for us with what's actually true for them, rather than assumptions we might be making. So here I might say, I'm noticing that she's getting upset when you try to put the spoon in her mouth. And this seems frustrating to you. Now, I'm even in that, as I'm reading it, what I typed, I'm making an assumption around frustrating. But, and then she might say, "Ah, every time, or no, this is the first time that's gone well every other time." What she may tell lots of things, but I'm not asking, how are you? I'm not asking, how is feeding going lately? I'm not interrogating. I'm just asking reflectively what I'm noticing. And then I might suggest with care some strategies to calm and center. I'm curious what it looks like when I can now go to that other place, right? I'm curious what it looks like when mealtime goes smoothly. Is there something that usually works to make it easier for both of you? And maybe she said, yeah, the fact that we have to eat in 20 minutes is really hard. We usually take more time. She's usually in a different kind of chair. Usually we have nap time before mealtime, or we don't eat this, or, whatever it might. We were just on a bus for 2 hours to get here. And I'm just feeling like that's, really difficult. That makes sense. Can I suggest something? What if you tried this? Or what if we just didn't do this right now and maybe we do something different and you feed her a little late or whatever. You're co-creating a solution for the moment. And then demonstrating with permission. So if necessary, if she says, I don't know, I have no idea, this is happening all the time, and I'm trying a bunch of different things and I don't know, I might say, would it be helpful if I showed you something that worked for other parents? And maybe I do something, right? Maybe I start with some breaths and start with doing something other than food with that baby. But mama's still there, right? Mama's still there. And I'm literally physically putting myself on the side of them and not physically putting myself in between them, where I'm asking mom to go to the side and I'm standing in between them. There's so much power in how we say, what we say, where we be, right? Oop. And then affirming authentically, right? Thanks for trying that out with me. Really appreciate that you're here. Now, baby may still be crying, maybe may not be crying. You may still end up picking up that baby. And mom may still say, I need to go for a walk for a minute and just take a break. But you didn't start there. You co-created that solution together. And so it's empowering her to be part of the solution rather than us going in and fixing right away. Does that resonate? Any questions, thoughts, comments? Okay. So now we're going to talk about how great practice. Yeah, it's hard practice, Nikki. It's hard practice because we care about those mamas and we care about those babies. But yeah, it shows her how to look at what she's doing and what she's doing well. And if it's a skill to build, we're building it with her in the moment. So hopefully tomorrow, if she's home and we're not there, or she's in her residential care, wherever, and this happens again, she takes that breath She plays airplane, whatever little something she might have picked up, or she says, even the skill to say, hey, can I take 5? If she lives with someone else. And if she doesn't, there's permission to say, maybe we don't eat right now. Because there's lots of messages we give to we give to parents around schedules and routines and all the things that come with all of this. Um, so just that, thank you for that, for your interaction there. Healthy Living Circle, we, is a foundation and sort of a touchstone throughout the 16 sessions of Celebrating Families. So we do it right at the beginning. Participants as a group are identifying ways to keep themselves healthy in the 4 quadrants of sort of holistic self: physical, spiritual, psychological, and social. What we're really finding, and as we're actually updating the curriculum together, is yes, for the group, but also for me. What's my healthy living circle? What are in my quadrants? Me as Melissa. What that I know I'm in my healthiest, centered, most aligned, grounded space. What's happening for me? Um, Maybe what's happening for me is, I can tell you right now, I'm meditating. When I'm meditating, that I'm going for walks, or at least getting outside and getting some vitamin D. I am hanging out with friends who fuel me, and making sure that I'm making time outside of my role as partner and mother and employee to really have fun. Physically, I'm making sure that I'm eating fruits and vegetables, right? And not just loading up on carbs and cheese, because I love them. And so I know I'm getting a good night's sleep. For me, that's 8 to 10 hours a night, which can be difficult sometimes. And so I know for me that if I'm not feeling good, if I'm feeling stressed, triggered, tired, I'm being short with my kids, maybe I'm not feeling like energized to go to work. I know if I look back at my healthy living circle, it will tell me. I can point out, what am I not doing for myself? What's keeping me out of alignment? And there are some strategies to help get me back in alignment. So yes, as the group, but also as an individual. So can you add to the chat, what are some of the common actions or behaviors that families share with you in group within the categories of the Healthy Living Circle? What are some of those common ones? And hi, Nikki, good to see you. Well, I don't see you, but I know you're there. What are some common dinner time together? Yep, yep, that's a common one. Exercise, there's often something about physical exercise. And in those individual ones, we want them to get a little more specific. Bedtime. Okay. So game night, reading, church. Yep. Play. Excellent. So let's say for this mom, we know her healthy living circle. She's shared it with us in higher power meditation, friendship. Maybe there's some meetings. Maybe there's a walking circle or a book club or something in their community. So for this mom, if we had her do an individual healthy living circle, let's just say this is what she created: eating breakfast, taking daily walks, and a consistent nap routine for her little one, journaling in the morning, connecting to nature, and one-on-one reading time with her baby, appointments with her therapist, setting boundaries with people in her life, and taking prescribed meds. Play group at the library, and some sort of recovery support group that she has. Okay, so we know that if we were to know that this was her healthy living circle, we can use this as sort of the North Star. These are her words, these are her solutions, this is her knowing of when she's aligned and when she's not, of when she's feeling healthy and strong in her recovery, perhaps, and perhaps when she's not. So if we were maybe not in that moment of eating, right? But maybe later in group, maybe on a one-on-one, maybe going for a walk with her or having a call, we're able to say, so what? Tell me, I was really I'm worried. I was really concerned about you in group. You really seemed frustrated. I really appreciated the time that we had with the baby and the fact that you were there, but I'm just curious how you're doing or what's going on for you. And she says, I've been feeling so overwhelmed lately. We've had so many appointments during the day that we are hardly home. And my boss is getting annoyed that I keep having to change my schedule. Wow. Okay, that's a lot. What might not be happening in her healthy living circle if she's hardly home, has tons of appointments, and is stressed about her job? There might not be a consistent nap routine if they're in appointments all day. She might not be having that time to journal in the morning. She may not be setting boundaries. She may miss a therapy appointment or a meeting or no self-care. That play group at the library, mm, it's fun, but it's at Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, and that's when she has to go, urine test or whatever. Some things are maybe very off balance in her schedule. And if you are like me, and I'm imagining some of you are, when I have a knowing of what keeps me grounded and centered, and then I have all this overwhelm knowing that that's where I want to be, but here's where life has me. How does that feel? If any of you have said you want to drink a bunch of water during the day, you made deals with yourself that you're going to take 10-minute breaks and walk around the building at work instead of staring at the screen all the time. And that hasn't been able to happen. What kind of feelings come up for you? I get frustrated. I also get aggravated. And then I can also get I get anxious too, Nikki. And all yes, judgmental of myself. What is wrong with me? I told myself I was going to put 10 minutes in my schedule, these 10-minute breaks. My boundaries weren't there, right? I begin to blame others, right? What's up with all these people that want to put all these meetings on my schedule? And that frustration can come in. I can get intolerant, ashamed, all those things. When we can do our own reflective work and identify with those feelings, it's like, no wonder why dinner looked like this tonight. Guilty. And we can think, how might mom be feeling all of those things when this mom said this is what she wanted, and yet this is what life, the reality is for her right now. And then she's still coming to group, and this is what's happening. And so being able to say to her, let's pull out that healthy living circle. I let her identify, how is it feeling? How is it being impacted? And how's that feeling for you? And she might probably use a lot of these same words that you all just used. What's one thing you can do today, now, right now, tonight, tomorrow, one of these things that you might be able to do? What is a boundary, help then using these as the strategy. She already knows what it takes to get her out of the frustration and the stress. She's identified it. And so the power of this, again, much as a guide on the side, is that I'm empowering and pointing out and reassuring to her what she's already identified rather than coming in and suggesting. Now, I might make suggestions about, we might co-create together how she's going to be able to maybe do some of these things. But it's, again, different than me saying, you should probably maybe talk to your social worker and ask her if you can decrease the number of blah, 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 blah. I mean, we go into, again, we can go into that fixing. And when we're fixing and in that telling mode, we're taking the role of expert in her life. And again, unintentionally disempowering. She's the expert in her life. Through the program, we've allowed her to identify what she considers her healthy living circle. And as a guide on the side, we can help her navigate ways to connect back to it. Let's use another example. I thought I had a different. All right. So I'm just going to say this these should have went together. as you're welcoming families to group, you're outside and you notice that a parent was smoking in the car um, with their child. You saw it as they were getting out of the car, you smell it on them. You've had all these conversations in group about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Um, what do you notice if you were to see this and this picture and if they were coming to you? What would you notice about your own reactions and bias here? And how might you be pulled to fix this? I'd be judgy. Yeah, yeah, me too. I want to lecture. Yeah, don't you know do you remember how we talked about? And again, I can say it in a loving way. Thanks for being here at group tonight. Remember what we talked about secondhand smoke and how unhealthy this is for the baby? What do you think might happen between your relationship with that parent if you came from that place? If we jumped right into thanks for coming and brrr, got shut down, guard would go up. They might be like, peace, not available for group tonight, right? It doesn't change the fact that this is unhealthy and dangerous for that baby. We're not condoning and saying, like, okay, cool, everybody go smoke with your kids. It's not that, but again, it's that, let me pause. Let me notice what's coming up for me. Who I'm feeling a lot of judgment on this one. Okay. Oop. And now let's go back to that healthy living circle. Okay. Now there's nothing specific on this healthy living circle necessarily that says not to smoke near my baby. But I might be able to say, not in front of everybody, with this person to say later, I noticed when you got here that that you had been smoking in the car with the baby. I have to just tell you, I had some reaction to that. And I'm also really glad that you're here. I'm wondering if you'd be open to talking a little bit about the healthy living circle and about where we think that would fall for your little one in the healthy living circle and for you as you're wanting to sort of take daily walks and you want to connect with nature and all these other things. How is setting a boundary? How could we talk about boundaries in this situation? Now, we could suggest that she wait outside to have a cigarette. Absolutely. We could also co-create it with her. So if I suggest to you, why don't you wait outside and have the cigarette and I'll bring the baby inside? I've told her what to do. Lovingly, maybe, right? Again, from a good place, but there still could be some resentment. And will she go home tonight and smoke in the cigar in the car on the way home after she's out of sight from us? How do we bring up these topics that could be more sensitive? Topics around marijuana and other drugs being around the house, gummies, things being available to children. How do we talk about these things that we don't say don't do it, but Nikki, yes, open the door. What does she want for her child? And this would be a really great opportunity. You could do it for the whole group without even talking about a specific example, or you could bring it to another set. Again, not the rule around don't smoke in front of your kids, but let's do our healthy living circle for our children. What do we want for our children? What is the healthy living circle we're wanting to help? Because as their caregivers, especially of these little ones, we are helping them build their healthy living circle because we have so much influence on what they have access to in these 4 quadrants. So let's think individually, what do you want for your children? And through that, I guarantee health, she might even say, I want a healthy environment. I want an environment where I'm not smoking around her. I'm just having a really hard time not doing it. Because the only time I have is in the car because I can't smoke at my apartment and I can't smoke at group and, whatever the case may be. So we're opening up this place where they can ground back to their own healthy living circle, their own well-being, what they want for themselves and their child. And we use that as a tool to be able to then introduce facts, skills, conversations around decisions and things that risk that for their children. So if they had in their children's physical health, that they're really healthy, that they don't become addicted themselves, that these kinds of things, we could bring up examples. So what do you think smoking with our children, how do you think that might impact their ability to stay centered and grounded within their healthy living circle? If they have easy access to marijuana gummies, or to a lighter in the house, or to, or to uncovered plug cover, or an unsafe partner that that is still coming into the home, how might that be impacting the healthy living circle that they're trying to create for themselves and for their children? So we're grounding back to what they want, not just to what we're teaching and the rules that we're setting up. How does that land for all of you? Any questions, comments, reactions to that? I know it's tricky sometimes in the webinar to type that fast. Yeah, empowering our parents to think about the impact on their children, and not the impact that the statistics say, the impact that we think that we say are not as meaningful as the result they want for their children and the impact it has on getting in the way of the result that they want. It does help them be successful, and it helps their autonomy, and it honors that there are different paths to recovery, and different paths to parenting. Um, and uh, and yes, we can ask the level of stress, we can ask them if they want a patch or gum, but I wouldn't get right to that solution. First, let's just that will likely come if they say, I'm having a hard time. Can you point me to a resource that could help me quit smoking? Then yes. But first, it's how does your smoking with your child impact what you want from them? What you want from them. It's a different way to look at it. We can get to the same end, but it's more meaningful, and it's really what creates lasting change, and the change that happens when we're not around. So they're not just doing it so that they don't get caught with us. They're not just doing it to please us, right? Because they don't want to get kicked out of group, or because of our relationship, my relationship with that parent or caregiver. They're doing it because of their relationship with their child and what they want for themselves and their child, and how these things are getting away from what they want for their child. And again, using that healthy living circle as that grounding and that center. Yes, Latrell. Yes. Different paths to recovery, different choices we all get to make, right? The parents can keep making choices, and we can get stuck in good choices, bad choices. They're all choices. And at the end of the day, I am most motivated not because someone told me a rule. I mean, if you know me, I'm a little spunky monkey. Not because of a rule, not because of what someone says has to be done, because most people who do it this way at work, all those things, those are important. They're important information. But in my life, what's going to sustain is when I'm feeling a difference towards the end that I want for myself and the end that I want for my children. I'll give you an example of kind of a guide in the side moment that I experienced recently. I have a 15-and-a-half-year-old and I have a 7-and-a-half-year-old. Halves are very important to them. Yesterday was the 7-year-old's half birthday. And my 7-year, I know all the things about screen time, right? I mean, I'm a developer of a of a of a program that talks about the American Pediatric Academy and the amount of screen time that impacts children and I know all the things. I know all the facts. I don't argue with all the facts. And yet still we have laptops, we have televisions, I have my cell phone, I have 3 computer screens in my office. Mary Beth and I were talking earlier about, our our offices turning into command centers. So as much as I know the statistics and the facts and the impact, screens are everywhere in our lives. And we had got to a place where my 7-year-old was really having a hard time with routine, with sleep, with like tantruming and a regression. It really felt like a regression. So my child development brain's going, what's happening? What's an area of growth that's happening that there's some regression happening? Now my partner was like, had been, complaining about the screen time for a long time. And I was like, oh, I know, but what else? What are parents supposed to do these days, right? Like, I need to get things done. But when it was, what if we tried something? And we all sat down and talked about it. And she took a break. We all took a break. As a family, we took a break from screen time for a week. We went outside more. We did more of our healthy living circle stuff. We read together. We went on scooter rides. The tantrums decreased. She stopped asking for the iPad as soon as she walked in the door after school and as soon as she woke up in the morning. And now, is it gone forever? Nope, but it's much more balanced for all of us. Because part of what my 7-year-old said to me, and this is part of giving everyone having their own voice in this, was, well, mommy, you're on your computer all the time for work. And she's right. Right? In the evenings, if she's busy and I've made dinner, I'm still checking my email. So I'm a picture that we would show in group around, oh, that parent that is just not attending to her child. But when I experienced the difference, I had to experience the difference with me and my child and our family dynamic in order to really get it, right? For it to really zone in. And it really was about what do I want for her? What does she want for herself and for our family? And then how did screen time impact that versus just starting with we should be doing around screen time. I'm keeping an eye. Oh, look, right on time. Okay. Ideas, questions, curiosities based on what we've talked about today. And ours a quick one. I don't know, I think it's chat or Q&A. I don't know that. You're welcome, Nikki. I hope you all found this useful of taking concepts that are in group and how to individualize them to implement them as tools and strategies for interactions and intervention. Anyone else? Ideas, questions? Anything you're curious about? Anything that didn't sit? I usually put a crunchy there. Anything felt crunchy? Okay. Oh, babies and toddlers. Yeah. And honestly, this can be for any age group. Obviously, children of any age, we could be this because this is really about how we're interacting with families and that pause. But this is equally impactful if you're talking about older kids and teenagers. What's in their healthy living circle? What do they want for themselves? And then tying the behaviors that they're doing to, is that getting in the way of or supporting their healthy living circle? And same with parents. Because us being guides on the side, we also want to encourage parents to be on guides on the side to their children. Anyone else? Opportunities for questions about this or anything celebrating families related? Yes. Yes, Justine. I'm sure Mary Beth can be in touch. Jennifer, what do I say to people who feel guilty for not doing this? Feel guilty for not being a guide on the side? Like for jumping in and trying to fix? Oh, you're human. I do it all the time. This is like what we aspire to do. But I do it all the time. I do it with family. I do it with staff, right? Where I see that I do it with my own children. I see that they're struggling. I see they have a question and I jump in to fix with a solution versus then pausing and co-creating something with them. So what I say is, try to release that guilt and give yourself grace to know that it's all coming from a really good place, that we want to support people. And it and just a time for our own reflective practice in supervision or with groups or with others, to say, what do I need for myself? What's coming up for me? So for me, for a long time, and I want to show my own competence. I want to show my own expertise. Maybe I think my idea or way to do things is really right, and I want other people to follow along with that. So I say, give grace to yourself. I know I need to give grace to myself, and that's what I use my reflective practice for: time with a supervisor, or just getting more conscious about how I'm interacting with others versus just doing and trying to fix. Love that people are interested in more training. Um, and we are also recording this, so you'll be able to see the whole thing. Jennifer, was that helpful? Okay, good. Because if I had you in person and I could see it, that's not the point of this. I know it can feel that way. But whenever I talk about guide on the side to anyone in any group, most everyone in the room goes, yes. We do that all the time, unintentionally. We do that all the time. We can't stand seeing those up. So we can't, it's so hard to not intervene quickly with those stressed out moms. Yeah, it's human. It's why we're so good at what we do also. I don't think you need a guide on the side for every single family. No, I don't think that and different sites do it different ways. Some sites have people that are sitting, each family has someone. I love that you're doing their pit and their peaks of their day. Some people have a staff person with every family, some don't have that many staff. We always say, as part of the Celebrating Families program, that you know your family's best, you know your community best, you know your staff best. And so if guide on the side is like, you're just leaning in when there's a need, and you're leaning out when there's not. You're leaning in when there's a need. It's like that bumper at the bowling. Here I go again. See what I do with the sports bowling alley. If bowling's a sport, right? But the bumpers are there, and the ball only uses them when they need to. So, I think that's not a requirement, and that's for you and your team to really decide. Are families being able to have those conversations on their own? Are they struggling to have those conversations on their own? Sometimes it's helpful, maybe in the first few sessions, to have someone there, and then, it kind of just depends on your community and the families you're serving. And thanks, Mary Beth, you're quick at those answers, but yes. Any other questions? Mary Beth, did you want to follow up with what next? I think you said a survey will go out.
Well, first, I just want to thank you again, Melissa. It's obvious that you've hit a very sweet spot where people wanted to review both of these important parts of celebrating families, especially with our young families, and reiterate, remind, just motivate again what that sole purpose of Guide on the Side is, and personalizing the healthy living circle. Sometimes we're so focused on what we're doing for others that we forget that it applies to ourselves. And by doing so, it allows us to be even more centered and more capable as a group leader. And in the busy world that we're all trying to keep our head above water in these days, those are amazing reminders. And you've done such a wonderful hour of doing so for everyone that joined us today.
Thanks. And I'll also add, and it's something we're talking about in our update, but that really not forgetting that at the center of everyone's healthy living circle is culture, is sort of identity. And so much of what ends up in our quadrants and how our life looks and what sits for us and doesn't, is also culturally driven, and personally driven. And so the importance of that as well.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to end. The other thing that I noted and I'm going to share this because I just think it was so beautifully said, is just reminding those that are working with our parents um, what their impression of motivation is, and that me as a parent is most motivated when I'm feeling a difference in my life for the better,
Mhm,
for myself and for my family. And boy, that reframes everything that we're doing when we think of it through that lens.
mhm, mhm.
So, well, I just want to thank you that we suspected it would go fast. It has gone fast. We're so grateful everybody is that is here. Like I put in the chat, there you will be invited to take part in a survey. This is the beginning of an ongoing Celebrating Families webinar programming that we want to be able to provide to you on a regular basis. So we do have a running list during our trainings. We ask a similar question, and we want to give you webinars that are going to be meaningful for you. So definitely take a few moments. If anyone knows me well, they know I pay very close attention to those comments and really want to make sure that we give you the most meaningful support, so that you can do your job to the best of your abilities and be that wonderful support for the children and families in your community. So take a few moments, complete that survey for us. If there's a question that occurs to you while you're completing it, I'll make sure that Melissa gets it. Melissa will be very quick to respond, and we'll make sure to get that answer back to you. And thanks again for the hour. Have a wonderful afternoon. And hopefully, we will see you all again soon at our next webinar.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Mary Beth. Take care,
Uh,
everyone.
thank, thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Have a great afternoon.